Hello, War Elephant Army, it's John again. Sorry it's been a while since I made my last video, but I wanted to share an interview that I recently had with Taleeb Starks. Starks is a well-known conservative author and host of the talk show Safe Space on the Compound Media Network. Now, Compound is a private network, so I couldn't really share the video with my followers, but I wanted to have a way to share the interview with everybody, so they allowed me to publish it to my YouTube. So here in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and share the interview itself, but first I'll give you some background. Beginning off, there was a little bit of technical difficulty getting it all started, and I also discovered that having my laptop on the table causes it to shake every time I laugh. So sorry about that, but besides that, it was a pretty good interview. Now, the content of the interview is from a Quora answer that I wrote probably about a year ago. The answer was to the question, what are some things that conservatives don't really understand? And it started off as one of the things that it was a lot of people really bashing on conservatives until I came in to answer it. And what I offered was talking about how most conservatives just sort of do something that I don't really agree with, and that's lumping all of the left into liberals. Now, whenever I say liberals, it means something very different than what most people do. I break up the left into many different groups, which basically is what we were talking about in the interview. Now, if you like the interview and you like Mr. Starks, what I would advise is to go ahead, click on the links that I provide in the description. That'll take you to his channel and to any other information that you need to sign up with Compound to get access to all the shows that they have there. Besides that, thank you, and here's the show.
I want you to know that, first and foremost, this is a safe space for commentary, not from commentary, so you can be yourself here.
Yeah, now, no, that was the funny thing, is that, like, I got this message from somebody saying it's a safe space, and I'm like, oh, I've heard this before. No, I don't know about all that. You
right,
know?
Safe, right, quotations around the word safe.
It's like, we want to bring you here to be safe so that we can fix you.
Yeah.
And it's going to be violent, and you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Now, I got to admit, I kind of lumped the Democrats, liberals, leftists, and progressives into one box. Pretty much Pandora's box. And as we know, Pandora's box should never be open.
Yeah, no, I get it, yeah.
But after reading your post on, and I want to pronounce the site right, is it Quora.com?
It's Quora. It's Quora, and I mean, it's mostly just a place for, it's sort of like a new way of blogging. It's been around for 9 years, but it's sort of like a new way of just blogging, to where somebody, some random whoever, posts a question and a bunch of people just respond to it. I've just made a lot of headway being the people that, or being the person that a lot of people like the most.
Yeah, you're a top-rated contributor to the site, and your post about the difference between liberals and progressives, and it changed me, because you broke each label down into bite-sized portions, which I appreciated. So
I wrote something on the internet and it changed someone's ideas.
Yeah. Well, no. I was with you, but I didn't. I just threw them all in the box, you know, and then I buried the box in the backyard. But I had to open it and go, maybe I may have had you guys pegged wrong. Some of you. The other ones, get your asses back into the box. So can you break down for the millions of people who are not watching about the differences between what you said that when the question was asked, what one thing about conservatives you would change or you don't like. So how about you just start with liberals and give us your definition of what liberals truly are.
Yeah, sure. Well, the debate that was brought up was what's something that most conservatives don't realize.
Okay, there you go.
It was that I was breaking down that, most of us do just sort of lump in everybody on the left as liberals. And that's something that I disagree with. I think like a lot of people, I was, I had a lot of liberal influences back when I was in college. Now, like I was also in the Marines before that, and I had 2 deployments to Iraq, and so like I went into college different than most college kids in that. And that I sort of had these beliefs that there's a lot of bad people in this world, and guns are great at solving that. And so like I was always sort of grounded on conservatism even in college. Plus, I didn't want to be poor, so I went into business. And you get a lot of different ideas when you focus on economics rather than literature, or whatever progressive theory is going on. But anyway, so but I had a lot of sympathy for liberals because like I spent so much time working with them, dealing with them after college, a lot of that. And it was like, no, they're not all bad. But then as I started looking at it and started compartmentalizing, you could see people acting in different groups. So like what I'd like to talk about is just those different groups, which I think is what you brought me on for.
Yeah.
So like you have liberals, and when I say liberals, I'm talking about what I would consider classical liberals, and this is a term that's getting a lot more popular. These are people who like we trace like the elements of our own culture that we like: freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. Even we could consider the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, as part of that, because it's this idea that people who are at the bottom need to have a means to be heard, to have their rights protected. A lot of that comes from classical liberalism, and it's like I don't think that we would argue that's a good thing.
Right.
Basically, like with liberals, though, is that they always they shouldn't have a team. Like if you're looking at a real liberal, like their ideas, they shouldn't have a team that they're on. They should be more like the referees. If they're being an honest liberal, they should be more like the referees of a game. It's like, which team is a good ref on? He's not on a team. He's just making sure everybody plays by the rules. But then we have progressivism. Progressivism is a different ideology altogether. And what's interesting about progressives, and we can say interesting, they're the group that makes me nervous. But with progressives, they have this thing they're progressing towards. They have this idea of a utopia. They have this like perfect place where everybody comes to perfect decisions every time for all the right reasons. And conservatives just really don't buy that. They see everybody as, we're all flawed people, and we're trying as best we can just to get around and have a good life, but mostly just leave us alone because nobody's going to have it perfect ever. But progressives do have this idea that there is something perfect, and we can make sure that we can make that perfect happen, mostly by passing laws.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So when you talk about liberals, you're talking about classic liberals, right? Because I think with the classic liberals, true liberal values is freedom based and not control based. Correct.
No, and I would agree with that completely. Now, we look at it that really like that liberal mentality, though, is that they want to seek out people who at least have a claim on oppression. They want to say, okay, well, you're oppressed, so I want to make sure that you're heard. The problem is that over many, many years, progressives have sort of dominated this idea that they're oppressed without like actually looking at the fact that no, for quite a while, things have been shifting to where you do have control over the media. You do have control over a lot of like the tech industry. There's a tech industry oligarchy there. There's a lot of people in government that are functioning for progressives. There's the academic institutions are completely taken over by the progressive left. So it's like you're not really looking at how much power you have, and you're not really asking, who is oppressed here. I don't like to get into the whole conservatives are the real oppressed minority. I don't want to play a victimhood card, but it's like, if you're a good liberal, you should be trying to argue that both sides get a say. And a lot of good liberals have spent so long trying to fight for the little guy that now they've stopped being good liberals. They've become progressives.
Okay.
And they're not trying to fight for both sides to be heard. They're just trying to protect the good guy in their idea of it.
So let me ask John, who runs the internet? Is it progressives or liberals? These when I say the internet, I'm talking about big tech, Google.
No, I understand. Okay. I understand what you're saying.
Would that be progressive? Would that be leftist?
The internet that we all deal with, the big social companies. Those are all from Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley really centered there in the San Francisco area, the whole Bay Area. That area is influenced by libertarians. There's a good bit of libertarians there because they love money. They're really great at making money. But the other side of it is massively dominated by progressive ideology. So you have technocrats who do have this control idea of things, and like the only ones who are really stopping them sometimes are the libertarians, because there's almost like there's a very small conservative base there. And I mean, that's something that really makes a lot of people nervous, is that you have progressive leaning control type individuals who are the technocrats running everything, as far as running the new media, running how people see things. And like, we actually had a pretty big situation with the web service Patreon, which allows a lot of people, myself included, to like, I'm one of the people who use Patreon, but they sort of shut off one of the people who, he was actually a classical liberal. Like, a lot of the conservative stuff he would have disagreed with us on, but he was a classical liberal who they shut him out, and it seemed completely arbitrary, completely unfair. But following after that, the other services he went through, other tech industry people worked to get those whole sites shut down. Yeah. And it was like, that got really scary, because it really led into this whole progressive left tech oligarchy. Just it's a lot of really scary words you don't like to put all together. But yeah, so the internet, it does have a lot of that, and it is kind of scary for a lot of people.
So where do leftists fall in this paradigm? The term
you see, like with leftists, that's wherever I take like I also break it into, it's not just liberals and progressives. Progressives, they've got their idea of utopia, but it's changed so many times that, like, you can't make everyone march towards one vision when your vision keeps changing. Right. Like back in, I'm not going to get to the whole history of it, but it's like, it's changed so much that you can't point 300 million people at it and expect it to trust it 20 years from now. But then we also have Marxism. Marxism really heavily influenced the left in the late 60s with this idea of class warfare of the haves versus the have-nots, and everything is about oppression. It's all about class warfare. You have that, which started to influence the progressives on the left really, really heavily in academia, which then it failed in the 90s, because amazingly, we all got rich and proved that Marxism was wrong. The haves versus have-nots did not work. So it had to evolve to stay relevant. And that's where intersectionality came in. This was a new theory brought about mostly through feminists. Yeah. Or like the post third wave feminism is a more accurate way to say it. There's a lot of good feminists that I think are doing a lot of good work, but this intersectionality basically said that we aren't people who are unique and have our own views. We're just a collection of identities. I'm not John Davis. I am a white male Christian from the flyover states. You're a black male. Those things define you far more than anything you've done in your life or any ideas you've ever had.
Yeah, your individuality is pretty much stripped from you.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, all those identity characteristics define you far more. And then they brought in Marxism. Marxism then married with that and said that, okay, all these various identities are on some oppression matrix, to where all whites are oppressing all blacks and all men are oppressing all women. And I'm sure that you know all of that, like all the various structures on it. And it's like, you can find individual situations where, yes, there's enough truth to prove some of what they say. There's so much evidence that says, me in a very poor rural town in Oklahoma, I am not oppressing you somewhere in New York City. Right. Correct? Like that. And so there's just so much the populations get so broad and so diverse that, like, that whole theory falls apart, because we're all individuals. Anyway, like you take once you have progressivism with its utopia that will fix all of this, to marry in with intersectionality that says that we're just a collection of identities, which marries with Marxism that says that everything's on an oppression conflict, that we're all fighting as classes. You take all of that and you have a leftist. Take all of that, you have a leftist. And like a leftist, it takes all the most dangerous elements of all three of those ideologies, creates one that is absolutely terrifying and probably the thing that people should fight against.
So
now
where does Antifa fall along this line?
Antifa is like seriously taking the Marxist elements of that and just running with it. So like the thing about the Marxist side of it is that it was all power struggle. It's like people don't have their individual motivations. It's just everything is about gaining power. And so Antifa is like the embodiment of that, taking all of this intersectionality, all this progressivism, taking all of that and just making a real ideology of that. In fact, they're even more terrifying because like where I say like white male Christian or whatever, they want to take whatever institutions we value, say the church. The church is a really big part of my life. Well, they believe that the church is an institution of oppression. So the best way to get rid of that is to get rid of all religion. Just nix it, gone. That marriage is an institution of oppression of women. So just marriage, gone.
Yeah.
So I mean that's why Antifa really flies this. They have an interesting flag that is it's a red and black flag for anarcho-communism. And the anarchy means that they want to get rid of all institutions they view as oppressive, which is basically all of Western civilization.
Yeah.
And then communism that, well, once we have nothing holding us back, we'll just work together and it'll be wonderful. And I'm like, bro, every time anybody's tried anything like that, it's resulted in mass genocide. It's like, no, I'm sorry. So you think you're the resistance, I'm resisting you.
so John, all of those terms politically fall under the Democrat label? Is it safe to say that, or am I off base?
I think I think that mostly it would. Now we do have groups like the alt-right. The alt-right is actually kind of dangerous in that they borrowed the identity politics ideas of basically they're trying to mirror the leftist ideologies that, well, we have the right to have identity politics too because we're being oppressed by their oppression and all this. So really, you do have elements of the alt-right who mirror all of this leftism. But as far as what you're saying, yes, the majority of it does come under the Democrat side. The far left, the leftist groups are far more influential than the far right groups in America, at least. And like I would agree with you, most fall under that Democratic side. But I do still have that feeling of sympathy towards the classical liberals. Now, most of them would still agree with the left on like social issues. Okay. But the thing that I like and respect about them is that they're people that I can disagree with while still enjoying having a burger with at a meal, because we can still like love the conversation. Yeah. And not hate the person, like we can love the conversation, love the debate, love to disagree, because we all know that the most powerful we'll ever be is, some guy talking his head on the internet, and that's it. Like, we're not going to cause like massive changes or revolutions. It's just we can agree to disagree very happily, and then go on talking about the burgers.
Okay, John, we're going to leave it there, my friend.
Very good. All right, thank you so much for having me.
Listen, thanks for hanging, and tell everyone where you can be reached. Now that we have you at War Elephant tag, but that's Facebook, correct?
The War Elephant Media, that's how you guys can find us on Facebook, where we share a lot. But on Quora, if you look up my name, John Davis, you'll see a picture of me back when I was in the Marines. I've put on a lot of civilian camouflage so that nobody recognizes how lethal I am in conversation. But like you'll see a picture of me. I've written a lot of stuff there. You can find that. We also have a War Elephant Space there, which is a collection of other writers such as myself who people looking for a lot of really good, well-articulated conservative ideas. Indeed. They can go find the space and get connected with that. So, yeah.
There you go. A lot of top-notch information there. Thanks again, John. You have a good weekend. God bless.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, man.
You got it.
episode, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to help me make more future episodes, please show your support by visiting the Patreon link provided. As always, thank you for joining us today on War Elephants Pass in Review.
It was supposed to be my pentakill. Why did you die to me? I killed alone, 1, 2, 3 for champions. I can't believe it.